Hi everybody, very welcome to Mentor and yet another YouTube live stream. I hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic out there as always. Sorry that I had to change the time for today, guys. The fact was that crew control called me. I was supposed to work a late duty tomorrow, a long day on lates. And they called me and they asked if I could consider doing an early duty instead, which meant that I have to get up at 4:10 tomorrow morning. So I won't be able to do a very long live stream this time, but I will be able to answer a lot of your questions as always, and I love interacting with you guys. So I see that loads of you are already here. Good to see you here. Ahmed, Christian, Pepinos, good. As always, guys, if you feel that your question is not getting through, and you have a really important question that you really want me to answer, then use the super chat and also use the Mentor Aviation app chat, because I'm getting loads of questions through there. So I will be prioritizing those two, and then I will go to the normal chat as always. So how are you all doing? One love. Thank you. I love you too, man. Right, guys. So yeah, I thought I could start off by talking a little bit about what happens if you get roster changes like I did today. So in my airline, we work on a fixed duty where you work 1 week of earlies, followed by 3 or 4 days off, and then 1 week of late duties. All right. So those ones are normally not interfered with. You get 1 month of roster. That is your 1 week of absolutely set roster, and then 3 weeks of anticipated roster. So you will see 4 weeks ahead what you're going to do, but the 3 last weeks can still be changed. All right. If they want to do changes to your current roster, as in the common week, they tend to give you a call like they did today and say, you know, very politely, would you mind doing this swap because we need it for whatever, maybe someone has gone out of hours or something like that. And then it's up to me to decide if I have plans or anything else to do, then I would probably turn it down. But if I don't have that and I want to help the company out, which I obviously do, then I will accept it. And it means that I have to redo the plans, which involves redoing the plans with you guys. Right, so I will take some questions here now to start off with. Guys, if you have the Mentor Aviation chat, I will be taking questions from there. What do you think about Boeing versus Airbus? That's a question that I get surprisingly often. And since I haven't flown Airbus, I can't really speak a little bit about Airbus. It seems to be a fascinating system. It's a completely different mindset to what Boeing is doing. They're aircraft, both of them, but the strategy and the philosophy behind the man versus machine interface is different with Airbus. So I would love to give Airbus a try, but at the moment I'm obviously a Boeing man because that's what I'm flying, and I love flying the 737. Right, I'm gonna see. Just wait a little bit. I have to change the there so we can see what you're saying. Right. Is it true that you need to have perfectly healthy teeth to become a pilot? No. As easy as that. I have fillings and stuff, you know. You probably shouldn't have active cavities, you know. You probably should go to your dentist and check up, make sure that your teeth are fixed and stuff, because if you have cavities, then with the pressure differences, you might get some quite excruciating pain. So that is probably where that comes from. But perfect teeth, no. I have loads of fillings in my teeth. So can you explain how you get in contact with your company when you're in the air? That's a really good question. So there are different methods to do this, okay? There's something called ACARS, where you have a system where you can actually type into a computer and send messages down to your operations control, and they can send messages back to you. We don't have that, so we use company frequencies, okay, which means that when we're flying over one of our bases or close to one of our bases, all of our bases have operations frequencies, so we just tune in that frequency on our VHF COM2, and then we call that operations controller and say, listen, we're thinking about diverting to X. Can you verify that with operations control? They will call, and then we'll call us back. I know it's a little bit cumbersome, but in our network, since we have a really big network with a lot of different active bases, it actually works quite well. But those, you know, there are multiple ways. Some companies have actual company frequencies, as in like one frequency where you can use over different parts of the globe, stuff like that. There is HF frequencies as well, which is a little bit less common, but there's loads of ways to get in contact with your company if you need to. And most of the time, you don't really need to get into contact with the company, unless you're on the ground. It's when you're in the air, it's up to me anyway to decide whether I'm going to divert to an alternate or if I think something is worth looking into. So, Aditya Keshav, is it true that the brace position kills? I have heard that a lot and no, okay. These are one of those fantastic conspiracy theories that are flaunted out on the internet. That I heard about it for the first time just last week. That people actually think that the brace position is designed to kill you quickly and to preserve your teeth imprints for identification later. That is what we call in the industry bullshit. Okay, the brace position is there to give you the maximum chance of taking on an impact, okay, of protecting the vital parts of your body from high G loads, which might happen during, for example, a crash landing or a really quick braking, okay, of the aircraft, deceleration of the aircraft. So the brace position is there to try to save as many as possible. And there's nothing in the airline business which is not about increasing the chances of survival or making things safer. Basically, every change that you hear, every procedure that you hear about, just like I talked about in my latest video, is there to increase safety. It's always about increasing safety. Every single thing we do, every checklist we do, every SOP we have, in the back of that SOP or that checklist point is going to be something that is there to try to save life. Okay, so anything you hear that says the opposite is just someone who's thought of something and then flaunted it out on the internet, and I find it fairly amusing actually. How do pilots brace, Mentor? Well, we don't really, to be perfectly honest. We are supposed to be flying the aircraft down until we stop, right? So there's no brace position for pilots. If there were, it would be very similar to what you passengers are doing, but obviously we are going to be doing our absolute best until the bitter end, okay? So, we wouldn't see pilots bracing unless they see that there's absolutely nothing they can do anymore. Sam, the Ryanair man. Mentor, hello. If you see bad weather on your weather radar and you can't fly around it, what do you do? Also, is it very bad that the aircraft bounces up and down? Okay, so we have very strict rules for how to maneuver around bad weather. Okay, if we are coming up to what's called, for example, a squall line, which is a line of CBs that kind of goes out for a very long distance, okay, where it's not feasible to actually go through the line, well then we are going to just have to turn around and divert. It's as easy as that. We don't cross through CBs under any circumstances. So if we can't get through them, we divert. It's not harder than that. And if you refer to turbulence, then like I did a video on this about a year ago about turbulence. And turbulence, normal turbulence, the one that you guys think about as passengers, normally is not a problem. Okay, turbulence like that is not even raising the pulse of the pilots. However, turbulence, for example, inside of a cumulonimbus, inside of a storm cloud, that can be dangerous. That can actually be structurally dangerous to the aircraft, which is one of the reasons why we never ever protrude through a CB. Because it's just not worth it. The aircraft is not designed to be able to take those kind of G loads that you can be subjected to inside of a thunderstorm. Other things that can be really bad is things like wake turbulence, for example. Wake turbulence can be very hard to maneuver through, which is also why we have loads and loads of rules with separations between aircraft and stuff like that in order to avoid wake turbulence. Pilot Go, first man up in the super chat. Good to hear from you, Pilot Go, and thank you for supporting the channel. Do some planes shut engines after landing? For example, Dash 8. Yeah, well, most of us do, actually. It is kind of standard procedure to taxi in using only one engine to save environment, to save on fuel, to save engine life. And what we do is you have to have a cool down period of the engines, which tends to be for the 737, this is about 3 minutes. So the engines have to run on idle thrust for about 3 minutes before we can shut them down. And then there are other things that we have to consider as well. For example, if it's slippery outside, or if it's a lot of uphill and you might need a lot of engine thrust to get into a stand, for example. In that case, we don't shut them down. But if it's a nice, relatively easy taxi in, then we do shut down one of the engines. We don't shut down both, obviously, because you need something to drive you forward onto the stand. So single engine taxi in tends to be a standard operating procedure for most operators. Mr. Dublin Pilot, Mentor, have you ever flown other liners in the past? Or if not, don't you get too bored after flying the same plane for years? No, I haven't flown any other airliners. I haven't flown for any other companies. I've flown for the same company for, well, it's coming up to 16 years soon now. And the answer to if it gets boring is no, because every single day is different. I know tomorrow that I'll be flying to a destination that I've flown to many, many times before, but I know that tomorrow is going to be different than last time I flew in there. Different things are going to happen, different weather is going to be there, there's going to be different amount of passengers, crew, all of that is going to be different. Every single day is different and it doesn't bore me. The time that you get bored and you think that you know everything about the aircraft you're flying, you should probably stop flying altogether, because you have gotten something very wrong. Like, I learn every single day. Every day that I go out and I fly, there's something new that I pick up that I didn't know before. And I am really, really grateful to have a job where I can feel like that. And I think, like I said, the day that I don't feel like that, I'm going to look into doing something else. Where are you flying tomorrow? Now, for security and safety reasons, I am not allowed to divulge where I'm flying. You know, I can't give you my roster or things like that, because basically I have no idea who is watching this. So I never give out destinations and things like that until just before the flight. But if you have the Mentor Aviation app, then I tend to, just before I go, send out a message saying that now I'm on the way here, for example. So get the Mentor Aviation app, which is something that I'm really, like, now we have almost 3,000 active users on Mentor Aviation app. Probably more than that, there are non-active, which means that there's a load of things that people can discuss in there. I keep sending up new documentaries that I think that you should watch, and then we can have some discussions around that. And people are asking all sorts of questions about training and stuff like that. It's a great community, so feel free to join up, guys. So, just been accepted into CTC Aviation after passing selections. Any tips for the ATPL theory from Coyle? Coyle, congratulations. We're going to be seeing each other soon up in the blue. Yeah, I mean, there's no, I don't have any, like, you should be doing this for the ATPL theory or that for the ATPL theory, because it's so wide. You know, there's 14 different subjects that you're going to have to go through. There's a lot of different information. So, you know, make sure that you have a study plan and that you stick to it, that you study hard, but that you also give yourself a little bit of time in between. You know, take at least one day a week where you don't do any kind of studying, where you go out and you see your girlfriend or you see your friends or your family or whatever, to kind of disconnect completely, and then make sure that you study hard on those other days, because it'll be 2 years of really hard study, but it's going to be worth it in the end. So I know that that's not the exact kind of ATPL tips you were asking for, but I can only give you some general tips, because I can't, you know, it's just too wide of subjects to be going into in detail. Cool, there's loads of you guys here now. It's great to see you all here. I have to say that I love this way of interacting with you guys. I hope that you enjoy it as well. More questions. I'll take the one from the actual chat here now. Can a Boeing pilot fly an Airbus in an emergency? Good question. It's likely that, you know, if it's absolute last resort, as in both pilots are incapacitated, then a current Boeing pilot will be much better than none at all. However, if you're not type rated on the Airbus, I think that the only thing that I would be really good for would be there to assist in reading checklists and maybe taking radio and things like that if it was absolutely needed. Because since I'm not type rated, I'm not familiar with the systems, I'm not familiar with the configurations of where they configure which buttons to push, basically. So yes, in an absolute emergency, I'm sure that I could figure out to get the aircraft down with some help, maybe from air traffic control, maybe from someone who is a pilot on an Airbus sitting in the tower. I would get it down, but if there was one remaining pilot and there was only a Boeing pilot on board on an Airbus, unlikely that I would be used. All right. Hello, let's see, more questions here. What does the yaw damper do? Well, this is a question that I'm getting surprisingly often, so I might do a short video on that coming forward. Now, the yaw damper, actually, there's something called a Dutch roll that that aircrafts, especially modern jetliners, are subjected to, which is a very unpleasant movement like this, okay? Which is basically, it's pilot induced. It's something when we try to counteract it, we tend to make it worse. Okay, the yaw damper does prevent that. It prevents Dutch roll, which it's called. So it constantly works a little bit with the rudder in order to make sure that the aircraft flies nice and straight. Okay, so Dutch roll prevention is one. Turn coordination is another, which is when you're flying your Cessnas, you tend to, as you're entering into a turn, you initiate it with aileron and then you add on rudder in order to make it nice and coordinated. Okay, we don't. When you fly an airliner, you don't have to push any rudder. The yaw damper actually takes care of the turn coordination for you. So in a Boeing, you just turn with the aileron, and the yaw damper will take care of the rest. Those are the two main features that the yaw damper does on the Boeing, anyway. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. What has been the best and the worst flight experience as a pilot and or passenger? That's a very general question. Best so far, I think, was when I delivered a new aircraft from Seattle with a friend of mine. Actually, that was a fantastic experience. Something that I hope that all of you have a chance to do. Worst experience, to be perfectly honest, I don't. There's no like, this day was the worst day ever. I've had days where a lot of bad things have happened. Like I had a flight not too long ago actually, which started off with a medical emergency in mid-air, and then turned out to where we were, going into the airport we were going to, it was foggy, so almost down to minimums. And once we broke minimums and saw the runway, we hit the big eagle that damaged the one of the leading edge devices. Things like that where a lot of shit is happening at the same time. Tends to be bad, but you deal with it, so there's no, in the end it actually turned out to be, the passenger one was okay, and the crew, we had a good debrief and we talked about what we could learn from the experience and stuff like that. So in the end it turned out to be a fairly pleasant experience. But when it happens, there's a lot of work, but there's also a lot of things that you can learn from days like that. It's the same with really bad delays as well, even if it's to it with the mindset that pilot, are you from Denmark? No, I am Swedish and I live in Spain since 3 years old. Alright guys, so it seems like we have a little bit of a problem, and this happens now because this is my internet that is going up and down. Let's see. Right, yes. Okay, as many of you as possible, because it's always fun to see how many is actually doing it. Guys, if you can still see me, then just write yes, okay? So I see that we are coming back. Because it looks like my video output at the moment is quite good, so let me know if it's coming back, all right? It's a lot of tourists that are stealing all of my internet at the moment, so it's jumping up and down in internet speed. I'm still living out on the countryside, guys, so there's nothing I can do about the internet, unfortunately. But you who've seen me do this a couple of times, you know that I'll be back very soon. So here I am again. Let's continue. Cool. Can you apply for an airline job in Asia if you've gotten your educational licenses in Europe? Yes, you can. In most cases, you can. However, you are going to have to change over your licenses, and in most cases, you are going to have to actually write some exams and get licenses in, for example, China when you're going over. But you can apply for it anyway. Okay, so the answer to the question is yes, you can. Normally, you need quite a lot of experience in order to apply for those jobs, and you will be provided with all of the info you need in order to convert your licenses from your European EASA license over to whatever, if it's a Hong Kong, if it's the Chinese licenses or whatever it might be. Cool. Right, guys, I'm getting the idea now. I'm getting like 200 yeses, so I'm guessing I'm back. Right, mentor, what could I do in the next 2 years to increase my chances of getting into an airline-sponsored flying program? Oh, that is, well, I mean, if you're in school, you have to get your grades up. As the better grades you have, the better it is. You can start reading up on theory and stuff like that, but to be honest, it's unlikely that anything else, I mean, it tends to be in stages, okay? You tend to, if you apply for a government-sponsored program or a airline cadet program, they will ask for first one thing, like get me your grades, okay? And then they will take only the ones with the top grades, and they will throw away the rest, and then they will concentrate on the top grades, and then they will do a selection out of those, where it's normally aptitude testing, where you go in and you do group exercises, aptitude tests, some math skill tests, and things like that. So keep the skills, keep your math skills up, especially go out on the internet and do some aptitude testing to prepare yourself, stuff like that, so that you're kind of familiar with the process. That's probably the best thing you can do. Hi mentor, how many languages do you speak, and how often are you required to speak different languages when on duty? Well, I speak Swedish fluently, obviously. I speak English fluently, as you can see. I speak a little bit of Spanish, enough to get around at the moment. I understand Catalan. On day-to-day duty, I am only speaking English. Like, I work for an English airline, or for an English-speaking airline, and we are required to only use English when we're at work. Okay, so I do all my PAs in English. I speak to my crew in English and all of that. So I might be doing, if I'm flying to Sweden, I might be doing a Swedish PA, you know. But that's about it. Valerio Viscareno has been sending in something on the super chat as well. Now, Valerio, I don't see a question there, and if you have a question that you wanted to ask that through the super chat, then go to my Facebook page and ask me there, and I will answer it for you there, okay? Guys, there's loads and loads of questions coming in now. If you want to get your questions answered for sure before I sign out, then use the super chat, okay? Do you hear the cabin ding that flight attendants hear when passengers push the call button? No, we don't. That's a system that's only working in the cabin, because otherwise we would potentially go mad if we heard every single ding that everyone did when they want a drink or something. That would be very annoying indeed. We only know the dings that we get from the cabin when they want to contact us. I get dizzy when flying. Will I get used to this as a pilot? Yes, I did a video on this. All right, check out my video, which is called "Can you be a pilot if you're afraid of heights?" Okay, because in that I talked about flight sickness as well. It's very common in the beginning. All right, getting dizzy and getting nauseous and actually puking is very, very common in the beginning of your flight training. And the reason for that is that if you have a very highly developed equilibrial system, then you are more likely to get flight sickness. And what we tend to do is that when you're flying in the beginning, you tend to be sitting and looking down because it's cool. You know, you see all the little houses and everything is moving around and stuff. So you sit and you stare down. Now, if you're staring straight down while the aircraft is moving forward and bumping around, your equilibrium system will have no idea what's going on, and it's going to end up with you having flight sickness, okay? But if you instead, every time this happens to you, you sit and you fix your eyes on your instruments or the horizon, and you let that kind of, settle down a little bit, where you can just fix your gaze on something, then it's going to get better soon, all right? So yes, in the beginning of flight training is very common. It tends to disappear after a little while. What encouraged you to become a pilot mentor? It's one of those things. My dad started flying as a private pilot because he was working in a job where he needed to travel long distances, so he took a PPL in order to do that on good, nice weather days. I followed him. I found it fascinating, and then I got a test lesson on my 14th birthday, which was amazing. Great. I got to fly out one of those like crisp, clear blue days. The instructor was very, very seasoned. He knew exactly what to do, so he let me be following through the rudders when we were taking off, flying around a little bit in my home village back in northern Sweden, Örnsköldsvik. and then when we got back, he actually let me land the aircraft while he was talking me down. And after that, I was sold. Like, there was nothing else in my mind. And you guys probably know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, it's called the aviation bug. I did a video on that as well. I've done a lot of videos on a lot of different things, I'm starting to realize now. But you know, it's once you have it, it's very hard to get rid of it unless you fulfill your dream and get your job. Can the 737 autoland? Yes, it can. We can autoland. We do that when we do so-called category 3 landings. If you get the Mentor Aviation app, I have a video playlist on how to do an autoland, where you can look around. If you have one of those VR headsets, it's just like sitting in the cockpit, and you can look at us, me and Holly, doing an autoland. I also have it on my Mentor 360 application if you want to get that. So you know, check out that if you want. Mentor Pilot, did you do higher or normal level maths? Well, I did natural science program, okay, which is fairly high levels of mathematics. It was leveled into A, B, C, D, E, and F, and we went all the way up to E, I believe. I think we even touched on F math, which is, you know, very high, like, oh, I can't even remember what we did now. Imaginary numbers, like, very, very advanced, at least for my level. I've never been a math whiz, never. David Wade, thank you very much for supporting the channel. It's great to have you here. Right, guys, listen, I'm going to have to finish off fairly soon, all right? And the reason for that is because I have to get up really early tomorrow morning, so I only had time for about half an hour. So if you have any questions you want me to cover in this week's live stream, then fire them off now. Any tips for the Ryanair assessment? Well, I don't give tips on specific assessments, but I do have a video on how to ace the airline interview. Have a look at that. That probably will give you some tips on just general things to thinking about before an airline assessment. Working early again, yeah, Marius. This is my 5th consecutive week. Now, tomorrow I wasn't supposed to work early, so I was supposed to work late, but they asked me nicely. So I'm doing 1 day of earlies and then I'm switching over to lates. Show your dance moves. You know, Swedes are not known to be very good dancers. Ask my wife, she will laugh her ass off. Right, your opinion on computer flight simming. Oh, computer flight sim, I did a video on that as well. I think it's a great way of learning systems, for example, getting system knowledge, things like that, getting to know yourself around the cockpit. However, when it comes to, you have to be a little bit careful, and I always say that because people tend to get very into flight simming. So they develop their own SOPs, or they follow SOPs that they found online, and then they start their normal flight training, and then those SOPs have to be de-learned, okay? That can be a problem if you're spending loads and loads and loads of hours doing flight simming, but you know, normal kind of, I think this is fun and I do it sometimes, not a problem. And I think it's probably a very good way of getting to learn stuff. Right, we have a question on the super chat here. Do people fail type rating courses? Yes, they do. It's very rare because we tend to have screened people before you get into an airline type rating course. You tend to have been screened by the airline to make sure that you have the personality traits and all things that's needed. But yes, people do fail type rating courses. It's very rare, but it does happen. And it's a very sad thing when it happens. We in the training department do everything we can in our power to keep it from happening. But it is not like you know, once you're in the type rating, you're going to be type rated and so on. It's going to be very largely up to you and how much work that you put in. How successful you're going to be in your type rating course. Right, cool. Some more questions. What happens if you lose your logbook? Yeah, that's a bad thing. All right, so keep copies of your logbook, or keep at least copies of the last 5 pages or so, and keep your logbook safe, because you are going to need to show your logbook when you need to upgrade the license, for example, or when you are applying for a new airline and stuff. They're going to look at your logbook, so make sure that you have it in a safe place. Do pilots need to get immigration stamps? Well, I fly mainly in Europe, so we don't get immigration stamps. Uh, I flew in to pick up an aircraft in Seattle. Then I did get the immigration stamps. I think that if you're only doing like layovers, I'm not sure about this because I haven't flown long haul myself, but I don't. Yeah, actually, I do think that they get immigration stamps, but I'm not going to bet my life on that. Rahim Khan, good to see you here, man. All right, guys, I'm going to take just a few more questions here from the Mentor Aviation chat. How to improve confidence with speaking? Yeah, you have to practice. You know, speaking in front of people is something that some people are just comfortable with. I've never had any big problems with speaking in front of people. But the more you're subjected to it, the better you'll be at it. Even though you get those butterflies in your stomach and you feel like you're going to puke because you get so nervous, just force yourself to do it. You'll realize that everyone feels more or less the same, and no one is going to stand up and laugh at you. So just, you know, keep doing it. Start off early. If you have kids, for example, make it a thing that they speak in front of maybe you as a family or a smaller group of people or whatever, so they get used to it as well, because it is really about just being comfortable with the concept and realizing that, you know, the worst thing that could happen is that you're just standing there and nothing comes out, and even that is not that bad, you know. So make sure that you practice it. Prantic, one more question on the super chat here. Hi mentor, great to hear from you. If you come to India anytime, do visit flight schools here. Hope you enjoy them. Yeah, this is something that I say on every one of my live stream. If you are a flight school out there and you want me to come and visit and you know, do a story on you guys or whatever, then just contact me, because I am really keen on getting into contact with not only flight schools but students doing their flight training and stuff like that. Because there's a lot of you guys that are following my channel, and a lot of you guys that are asking questions, and I have been disconnected from the flight schooling world for 15 years now. You know, I've only been flying airlines, so my insight into the flight schools is not as good as it should be. All right, which is why I'm trying to pick up some information about it. So yeah, so that's something that I'm hoping to do a little bit further on. Okay, guys, how do you get time to post videos on Thursdays? Yeah, now I'm producing videos and I release one every Thursday, right? So if I can't do it myself, then I just schedule the release. I'm trying to be a couple of weeks ahead. I'm trying to make a few videos so that I don't have to sit and kind of put something together last minute. But I hope you like the thing, like the fact that I'm putting out videos every Thursday, live stream every Sunday. And also, I have at least 2 Mentor Cadet videos that I'm about to finish. So they are going to come out like middle releases, maybe on a Tuesday, maybe on a Saturday or something like that. So you guys have something to watch, because the cadets are doing quite well. They're progressing through the career. There's some news from Diffrig, for example, that is going to be the next release. Damien has some news as well. So there will be more and more coming out. And I hope you're going to enjoy it, guys. How often do you do autoland? Well, as seldom as we can, right? We only do autoland when the weather is really poor, or if we need to practice it. But, you know, it's during the summer very rarely. During the winter, maybe a couple of times a month, something like that. Right, guys, having said that, this is going to be the last couple of questions that I'll take, so use the super chat if you want to, otherwise I will be finishing off with the last 2 questions now. Mentor, what was your last CRM issue with any other crew member, and how did you manage the situation? I very rarely have CRM issues anymore. Since I am a type rating examiner, and a line trainer, and I fly, you know, almost only with cadets and first officers, obviously. They tend to be very, you know, it's on the other side there where I have to tell them that please tell me if I'm doing something wrong, or, you know, let me know if you think that I'm not doing something right, because people tend to be a little bit, you know, back. They don't want to question it, and that's a danger in itself when you find yourself in that situation. Obviously, I've done line checks and stuff where people have disagreed with me, or, you know, checks in the simulator where people have disagreed with me. But I tend to want to sit down and just talk it through. If they have a different opinion than me, I want to hear their opinion. I want to hear them motivated. If they have a good motivation, I will motivate mine, and then we'll come to some kind of consensus. And it's the same kind of way that it works in the cockpit, where if as long as you show respect for the other crew member, and you show that respect, and you listen to what they say, and you don't take it personally, you concentrate on what is right, not who is right, you are very rarely going to get into really bad CRM problems. And that's probably the best tip. Make sure that you get the Mentor Aviation app. Make sure that you get your friends and yourself to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And have an absolutely fantastic evening wherever you are out there. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.